Welcome back to Washington Watch. I'm your host, Tony Perkins. So glad that you are with us as we continue our coverage of the second annual Ministerial to Advance Religious Freedom, being held this week at the U.S. Department of State. Now, one of the countries that has been doing remarkable work in helping Christian communities in the Middle East rebuild, as well as bringing greater attention to the persecution of Christians around the world, is Hungary. And they've been doing this work actually for quite some time, especially in the Middle East. Well, joining me now is Hungary's State Secretary for the Aid of Persecuted Christians, Tristan Azbej. Secretary, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
But before we go into discussion of the panel that you were on, Mr. Secretary, let's talk about, first off, the priority that your Prime Minister, Viktor Orban, has placed on religious freedom, and in particular, the defense of Christianity, not only in Europe, but really the entire world. He has declared that, quote, Christianity is Europe's last hope. What did he mean by that?
Well, the Hungarian government has started its aid program for persecuted Christians in 2016 for two reasons. One is a humanitarian reason, and that reason is that currently Christianity is the most persecuted religion in the world. This sounds like a sweeping statement, but the facts support this, according to surveys by the Hungarian government, but also by the British government.
Right, I'm going to have them on the program tomorrow talking about the recent study that was just released.
So there, and our results show that about 80% of the people who are persecuted for their faith or belief in the world are Christians. So the Hungarian government recognized this and started an aid program, but at the same time we are also proud and outspoken about our Christian identity and Christian culture as a government.
I guess what I appreciate about that, and the Hungarian government here last year at the ministerial bringing that issue to the forefront, is that in spite of all the, this politically correct culture that, does not want to mention Christianity, you, based on the facts, are working very aggressively to help persecuted Christians. Your government actually designating money in your federal budget to help rebuild communities in Iraq and helping persecuted believers around the world.
That is correct. We always prefer truth over political correctness. So we prefer to say that we are a Christian nation. This has nothing to do with religion. Politicians should not interfere with the relationship between man and God. We are referring to values based on which our society, our culture, our traditions were built on, and those are the Judeo-Christian values. And we are ready to defend those. But what is more important than defending values is to defending actual people who are Christian. And since Christianity is the most persecuted religious group in the world and is highly neglected in the international arena by the international organizations, including the human rights organizations, we felt like it's our human moral obligation to come to their aid. So this is why we have set up this department that I'm heading. But with that, it's more than just a governmental structure. We indeed started an aid program that has now activities in countries like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, even in Africa, in Nigeria, Ethiopia, with the goal of saving the Christian communities that are in minority, that suffer pressure, or that are endangered of being annihilated from the very cradle of Christianity, which is also the very cradle of our civilization.
And Tristan, you've found a kind of a partner in the United States under this administration, where you're working with USAID. In fact, Administrator Mark Green was on the program earlier today, and as we were talking after the program, I told him I was going to have you on, and he had nothing but glowing things to say about Hungary and the work that you're doing.
Yes, and we very much appreciate that. You see, Hungary is a small country. It's only 10 million people, and our economy is developing, but still we suffered from communist dictatorship for 40 years in the last century, so we are not the wealthiest nation even in the European Union. So we can only contribute so much to persecuted Christians. In the first 2 years, we have contributed $32 million to these communities, which is perhaps not much, but it was at that time exactly $32 million more than any other government gave to persecuted Christian communities. And we were very glad and proud that USAID and the US government drew inspiration from our program and announced that Vice President Mike Pence has announced that the US would help and already helping persecuted Christians and other religious minorities first in Iraq. And the next step was in last December when the Hungary Helps program, that is the name of our aid program, and USAID have signed a memorandum of understanding that we are about to announce the first projects in the hopefully near future.
Well, we appreciate the work that the Hungarian government is doing. Also, I didn't even get into it in this program, but promoting the family and encouraging parents to have children. I've been on some policy panels with members of the Hungarian government talking about the family policies that the government is pursuing. So a lot of good things happening in the country of Hungary. So, Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for taking time to join us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. God bless you.
Folks, to find out more, go to the website, tonyperkins.com. When we come back, Travis Weber, Vice President of Policy and who oversees our Center for Religious Liberty, joins me to kind of give a summary of today. Later this afternoon, we had former Congressman Frank Wolf and Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, speaking about China. We're going to talk about that and more when we return. Don't go away. More Washington Watch to come right after this.